How frustrating is it to look at your golf swing on video from face on and see those awkward impacts and desperately try and work on it, but not see any progress? Well, very often it can be because you're looking in the wrong area. The transition, so when you go from backswing to downswing, is for me, arguably, the most important part of the golf swing other than impact. Now, there are 3 movements I'm going to teach you in this video to unlock that perfect transition. Now, these are things that you may well know you should be doing, but the drills I'm going to give you could well, for the first time, allow you to feel exactly what you need to be doing in that phase of the golf swing. Now, on my wrist, I've got a device, it's the Hack Motion. I've got some audio feedback set on. So when I put my wrist in a certain position, it's going to make a noise. That's going to be helpful for this first section. What you might well know is in the backswing, we want to take that wrist and we want to flatten it. Now, when I put it into a flat position, the Hack Motion tells me that it's in the right position. If I flex it too much, it goes off. If I cup it, it goes off. So when I get my wrist flat, I get that noise. That noise is telling me I'm in the right position. What is my wrist like? Well, the noise is not on because my wrist is not flat. When I take a setup, my wrist is cupped, it's extended. In the backswing, I need to flatten it. So watch what happens as I make my backswing. I start to get the noise. This is my wrist in its perfect position. So watch what happens if I continue a little bit. Here. That is where I want to be. But watch what happens if I continue my swing and get a little bit longer. It's gone off. Because what happens when you make a backswing which is too long, you cannot keep your wrist in that flat position. It's almost impossible. Do this little exercise with me and we'll do it together because you'll hear the audio feedback. Watch how I can create wrist set and keep that wrist in its position. But as I try and use my wrist more, it goes off. So when we try and create too much angle through the wrists, or when we make a golf swing which is too long, the wrist is always going to cup. So here's an exercise I want you to do. You can hit balls this way, and this is brilliant. You take a setup, and you're going to lift your arms up in front of you whilst you're flattening that wrist. So I'm going to go from here, arms up, wrist flattens. Notice how I didn't turn my body, I didn't change my body angles. I literally just lifted my arms up and I kept my right arm really wide and extended. I didn't get this kind of really narrow in here. So I'm going to keep my arms extended, up, flatten the wrist. Now I'm going to add some body turn. That for me feels phenomenal. That feels like a really wide turn, which is really key. But I've got so much extension, so much width in my hands, and that's allowing me to keep that wrist in that perfect position. So I'll show you that again. We go wrist is cupped, arms go up, flatten the wrist, arms are extended, I'm pushing them away from me, add my turn, and I get myself into this beautiful position at the top where I've got a full turn, but I'm nice and wide. If I go too long, wrist goes into the wrong position and the audio feedback turns off. Almost every golfer that I've coached who struggles with their irons kind of knows that their hands need to be further forwards. So when you get to the top of your golf swing, where do you know that your hands need to be? They need to be more in front of the golf ball. So what often happens is when we get to the top, we desperately try and get the hands in front of the golf ball, and we actually pull the club into you. Look what's happening. My wrist is going from good to cupped. I've got this little device. It's called a smart ball. Effectively, it's just going to go between my elbows. You can get a little creative. You don't even need this, but it's great to really give you those sensations and those feels. So when I take a setup, I can squeeze that between my forearms. And when I get to the top, I can still have it between my forearms. But if I make that movement that we just discussed, we get the elbow separating, wrist extending, the ball drops. And if you look at your golf swing, the elbow separating is one of the most common traits in the transition, and it gets people into all sorts of trouble. So I'd love you to get something like this, get it between your forearms, and just have a little bit of pressure on it, just enough that it sort of keeps in place. As you transition, I'm going to just turn that wrist off for a moment so you can hear, what I'd actually love you to do is try and feel that your right elbow, your trail elbow, is squashing the golf ball. Sorry, is squashing the smart ball between your elbows. So you're not separating the elbows, but you're actually trying to squeeze them together. Look what happens. See how I can turn that noise on just by squeezing the elbows. What we do with the elbows massively influences the wrists. Elbow separated, wrist is extended. Elbows closed, wrist is flat. We've got the wrist flat at the top, we just need to keep it there. So as I transition from backswing to downswing, we're going to turn the wrist on, and I'm going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. What's happening with that wrist? It's staying in that perfect position. It's staying flat. And when the wrist is flat, the face is under control. That's the key message here. All of the things that we're covering here are trying to fix the fact that most golfers in transition have the face twisting open. And it's that that's affecting the impact. So we go up, wrist is good, squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it, and then we can go through. And I start to be able to move from backswing to downswing in a much more efficient manner, controlling the face. Final thing in this video, which I'm going to teach you, is how to lower the arms relative to your body. Let me explain what I mean by lowering the arms. If you go back to that first drill that we did, how did we get to the top of the backswing position? Well, from our setup, we lifted the arms relative to the body. So my body stayed in position and I simply lifted the arms, and then I added some rotation. So that little demonstration shows us that our backswing is made up of, yes, body rotation, but also a lifting of the arms. Where did the club start? Well, the club started behind the ball. So if we need to get the club back to the golf ball, i.e. impact, we probably need to reverse those two things. So if I was to go to the top, arms lift, body turns, and then from here I was to drop my arms and turn my body, guess what? We get back to our perfect impact. So my downswing has to involve a lowering of the arms relative to the body and a body turn. Make a backswing. If you want to get that wrist in position, then by all means. If you want to make that big wide turn with the short arm swing, by all means. But from here, we're going to do the 5 o'clock drill, where I push my hands and the club down to 5 o'clock. What do I mean by 5 o'clock? Well, imagine you're stood in a clock face. 12 is over here, you've got 3, you've got 6. I'm looking or thinking of an area which is around about, let's say 4 or 5 o'clock. And from the top of my backswing, I want to be pushing my hand and the club down towards that golf ball. Now that looks like the club is getting very much behind me, very much on the inside. And it is, because at this stage I haven't added any body rotation. But if I can have this as my rehearsal, my arms are lowering. When I do that and I add body rotation, guess what? We find a pretty perfect delivery. So the feel is to get the arms lowering down to a 5 o'clock area. And as you do that with body rotation, you're going to start to get the club being delivered from the perfect position. So we go up, I rehearse down to 5, I rehearse down to 5, do that a couple of times, then add the body turn, and already I can tell by the ball flight from right to left that that path was out to the right, and it was by a significant amount, 7 degrees, just over 7 degrees. And that was because I really exaggerated that movement. So what we've really covered in this video, if you think about it, is we've given you more structure at the top of your backswing, which is really key. We've been able to control the wrist, which means that we're controlling the club face, and we're delivering the club more from the inside. So I've been working on transition, you've got more club face control, and you're hitting it more from the inside. Now, what do most golfers need? More club face control and more from the inside. So once we start to put those movements together, we start to make backswings that are wide and structured. We keep the elbows close and we transition in the right way. We start to be able to transition better.